Welcome to The Forge Focus, a podcast through The Forge, where we focus on our mission of enhancing manhood through our three pillars of positive imagery, quality fellowship, and service to others. These three pillars were created to help fight toxic masculinity and promote a healthy aspect of manhood. Here we will have personal discussions with men in the community and beyond who exemplify this mission and can share their experiences and perspectives in efforts to make us all just a little better than we were before listening in. I mean, hey, let's face it, we can all learn from each other, right? And now, your host, Ebony McNeil. Prepare to be forged.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Forge Focus podcast. This podcast, we take the topics and the issues that we talk about in our monthly Forge forums, and we actually talk individual with men in the community and beyond who can have an impact on society because they live every day. They live our mission of enhancing manhood from the inside out. So thanks for tuning in again. Now, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a very short intro because this man needs no introduction. I'm just happy again to call him my friend. I'm proud to accomplish multiple time state champion of Reading High School basketball, where I am an alum, so I'm super proud of it. I'm going to introduce my friend and an amazing person all around, Rick Perez.
Hey, my brother, thank you for having me. It's an honor being here on the Forge, taking these last 5 minutes to really just get caught up a little bit and, your mission. I remember our conversation a year or two back, and, you talking about all this and now seeing it come to fruition. This is your calling, and it's an honor to be, to be here on this journey and, enjoy this with you. So thank you, and great job for everything that you're doing for everybody.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you, man. It's like you said, we talked about this a long time. I've known you for a long time. So remembering that means a lot. So thank you for that. Also, Rick, what I wanted to do is, like you just mentioned about being in the calling. I'm going to dive right in because you are in your calling. You've done something nobody's done. So you are in your calling. No, I strongly believe, and I mentioned this on another podcast, only you can do what you can do. And I don't believe anybody else could have taken those boys and did what you did. So I'm going to dive into that right away. My first thing, I'm going to let you talk a while. I want you to tell us about your journey. Start back maybe like high school and how you wound up being coach of Reading High School and all the accomplishments you've done. How'd you get here? Go ahead.
It's God's will, I may say by accident, if I wasn't a man of faith, but it wasn't an accident by any means. In high school, when I got, had some issues in Muhlenberg, had gotten kicked out of there, so I'm from Reading to Muhlenberg. So I ended up at Wilson, which wasn't a very good experience for me. I really wasn't part of the culture, but thankfully to the Flowers family and Gilmore family, I had a little bit of support during that time, but I really lost myself during that time, selling drugs, using cocaine, stopped playing football at that time. Actually got into a physical fight with their football coach at that, when I got to Wilson, and just wasn't in the right headspace during that time. And still played basketball, still had game, but smoking weed every day before school. And it was only a matter of time till everything caught up with me. Still got recruited by Westchester and was able to go play there. Now, when I had gotten to Westchester, my first year, I was part of the team. I was redshirted during that time, but then during my sophomore year, it was, things got a little difficult for me. So I got a little bit jammed up, and was actually given the heads up, Rick, you're either going to jail or you're going to disappear. Well, it wasn't that hard. Quickly took everything that I had on my possessions, shot back over to Berks County, my safe haven. And at that point, I didn't want to really break my mom's heart, and tell her that I had dropped out of school. So I didn't drop out of school. As I said, I'm very thankful for the Flowers family, Gilmore family, and I shot straight to Kutztown, over to Rob Flowers, Spanky, my brother's house at that time. He gave me a little spot in the corner because, as we know, in college, you only need a little spot, and the first moment I took, I just enrolled into Kutztown at that point. I had lost my scholarship that I had from Westchester, and at that point I didn't care. I just didn't want my mother to know what happened. So at that point, just took loan after loan after loan, re-enrolled in school. and I was lucky to graduate. Doesn't mean I was living right, but I was at least pursuing my dream that my mom, wanted me to complete at that time. I did try to play basketball again, but at that time, just the aura around me wasn't good. It was oozing trouble. So I didn't get that opportunity to play. And I met Brian Ellison. So Coach Brian Ellison, who was an assistant at Reading High School. And at that point, I was going to the Olives Boys and Girls Club just to play, to continue hooping. Because, at that point, I'm 19, turning 20, still have aspirations of playing. I could still really hoop. So a lot of the kids from the high would come down and I would give them all work, And I didn't know how to coach at that point. But what I knew how to do was teach them through skills, or just through me, just do what I do, So at that point, Brian was like, hey, do you want to help out with our AAU team, which was the Roadrunners at that point? Oh, certainly, I'm all in. Give me something to do. So, he took me all over the country. Anything Brian asked, I would do. And then one day, Coach Reyes comes in. So we're at the high school, and now everybody knows Coach Reyes. That's an intimidating presence. Okay.
Yeah, big man, big man.
It doesn't say hello to me, doesn't acknowledge me in any way. Okay. And, just tells me, what the hell are you doing with yourself? Do you want to coach? Most certainly. And after that day, everything just took off. And, I was indebted to Coach Reyes, I am indebted to Coach Reyes, Coach Ellison, Coach Golden. And I think those were men that I needed in my life at that point, being 20 years old. Coach Ellison is in his 30s. Coach Reyes is in his 40s at that time. Coach Golden is 6 years old. So as I'm wanting to go to the club and turn up, they're like, well, no, young fella, this is what we do. And I remember one time I had been going through some issues prior to being married with Kristen at that time. And it was after the game, and Coach Reyes had seen, this is how real the advice I was getting, and Coach Reyes said to me, I said, yeah, I'm going out to turn up. And he was like, all right, well, you have yourself a good night. He said, I want you to be mindful. Picture your son on another man's shoulders at Dorney Park. He said, while you out turning up.
Oh, man. If that don't make you stop, nothing's going to make you stop.
Yeah, I said, Coach, I'm going home. But that was the real feedback that I was getting that I needed, because I was so knuckleheaded at that time. I was still, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I wasn't living righteously, and he knew that. But he loved me, through all that process, him and Coach Ellison. And I'm just forever thankful for what they had done for me at that point. Never did I think I would become Reading High Boys basketball coach. One of my values is loyalty. I was loyal to them, and guess what? If I had to continue getting his soda and gum to this day, I would still be doing that.
Wow. All right, well, you laid out a lot, so we're going to go back on a few things. First off, I want to reflect on what you said about him giving you that advice. As men, that's what, like you said, you needed that. And sometimes it takes men to understand what another man needs. He didn't hit you with, well, you should probably go home, or, that's not doing the right thing. He hit you with, all right, well, while you're out shaking your ass, picture your wife find it out and you're going to have another man carrying your son around. That is going to make anybody, no matter how tough you think you are, how much you want to be turned up, that's going to bring you home. And you needed to hear that. So that speaks to the power that having that male influence, that strong male influence has over young men. And that's you at what you were about, he said 19, 20 at the time?
I was turning 20 around there at that point when he had said that I had just turned 21.
Okay.
So I was already under his wing for, a year and a half or so.
That's awesome. So I did want to back up, something you had said was, again, you had mentioned the Flowers family. Shout out to all y'all. We all love the Flowers family, the Ellisons, the Gilmores, everybody. We love y'all. But you had mentioned that had it not been for them, you wouldn't be who you are. And that goes into, again, one thing we know about the Flowers family. Don't get me wrong. The Gilmores, the Flowers, great women in that family, but they got some dudes in that family. Like me and you both been to so many family parties, and you got to come ready just to be around them dudes. And it's for the party aspect, but a lot of it is for the wisdom they're going to drop on you. And they have high standards in men. And we didn't even get all the way through your story, but already twice you've had a testimony of how men being in your life has made you who you are. And I don't think a lot of people even can sit back and reflect and know these points of time that you had. But that was major. Listening to this few minutes you just gave us, really, to me, it touched me and said, all right, that impact that we're having, you, me, other men out in the community, it shows when someone that we've taken under our wing grows. It's necessary. It's positive. It's absolutely essential for society. So I don't want to go too far on that, but I did want to hear that. I wanted to go back on that because that's important. I
think in that case, I have, shout out to my mom and my father, because sometimes our ego gets in the way. It's very difficult to parent, and allowing people to be in your child's space like that. To have that presence is very powerful, So for my mom to be able, she's a single mother, doing it on her own at that point, and, my father, he's living in Florida, he's in my life, but, of course there's insecurities being that far away. To allow people into that space, made a lot of difference. And now my mother and Mrs. Flowers are best of friends. They partying it up and we don't even know what's going on, but I think that was powerful, allowing their presences. And Mr. Flowers, for myself, he's on my Mount Rushmore of men, and he didn't say much. He taught me that sometimes you don't need to say or act, you just need to be, and sometimes that is the most important thing, is to be there on a consistent basis, that every time you look over your right shoulder, they're always there. And then that helps you take those little steps forward. Our kids do that now. When they were little, they always looked at you for validation. Like, all right, did dad think this is cool?
Yep.
So I'm thankful for them, forever thankful for them, and thankful to my parents for allowing them, into that space. It takes a lot. The village is big.
Yeah. And I'm going to pivot right off of that. I had some other things I want to ask you, we'll get to them, but I wanted to pivot right into what you said about allowing someone else in that space. And in today's society, that doesn't happen enough. A lot of parents let their ego keep somebody who can bless their child out of that space. They don't want that influence, even though it's the right influence to give them. With you being a coach of all these young men, did you ever have to meet with that, where you were just trying to help these young men? You were molding them, you're teaching them amazing things, and you still had parents who, oh, you just a coach, or back off, or anything like that. Did you experience that?
Yeah, most certainly. And I understand that it's difficult for parents to do that, because there's always different circumstances. You don't know what happened in their lives, how protected they are of their children. There's always a reason, So I've always had to be mindful of that. I think that I have grown up and my family has taught me to be an empath. So I'm not just going to have sympathy. I'm going to have empathy for everyone. Let's try to understand the entire situation, And before I go on to that, I want to thank you for being part of our village with my son for the last 6 years, letting people in and helping them lead. So,
that was my pleasure. It was great having him on the team. And no arguments. Hey, I need you to do this. Okay, coach.
Okay, good.
It was great.
So with that being said, with a lot of parents, it was about relationship building, because we know that when we're keeping people on the basketball team, we are not just keeping the player. You're keeping the entire family, so you have to look at it from more of a macro level. It's not just that student or that student athlete. You're embracing everybody. So we always try to bring them in. And I think that the more that they saw our authenticity, how genuine we were, then they were able to let go a little bit. So, I never fought it. At the end of the day, your son is not going to be able to grow, okay, at the trajectory that you want him to grow, okay, if you don't allow us to do this together. Let me take this moment, because I love all those kids. And when they begin to realize that, which has become a lot easier because, with Tremaine Jones and Reading KTB, it's not like they just come to varsity and that's the first time we're creating a relationship. That relationship was already being established over time, so it was a little bit easier, especially as time went on and the program, come to fruition.
Yeah, and you had mentioned the KTB thing, and I love watching, especially seeing the posts on social media where those same kids that were on the team at KTB are now state champions. And it's beautiful because us in the area know that they started KTB and it is a process, and they always have these men with them that are actually have a goal in mind. So thank you guys all for doing that, because the youth in this city need that. They need men like you guiding them. So what we're going to do next, we're going to talk about some struggles that you've had maybe as a coach, certain things where it didn't go well, because everybody, we know your success, but we want to talk about some things that didn't go well. So that'll be our next topic. All right, so Rick, like we talked about, everybody sees the end result. Multiple state championships, you've done things at the high that nobody's ever done, but we always got to let people know what struggles you went to get there, because a lot of people just see the highlight reels. So in we learned a portion of your story how you got to be there. Give me some of the tough things that you had to deal with when you did take over as the Reading High coach.
Coaching at Reading High School comes with a lot of expectations, and I became a slave to those expectations early on. It was about winning, and I needed to win, or I felt I needed to win. So I put a lot of extra pressure on me, and a lot of people don't remember, being 19-7, getting smacked by Harrisburg by 30 in the first round of districts, not even making states the first year. One of my favorite moments in coaching, and I would go back to it to this day. We were 15-14. Okay. We were in the district, just a qualifying game. So you had to play to get the last seed in districts. So a lot of times, a lot of kids, they'll quit. They don't want to play. They don't want to do that. But these guys came up. We went up to Cumberland Valley, beat Chambersburg. And I remember getting in, and I can't really explain how I had blood on my shirt. But I had blood all over my shirt. My shirt was wrinkled up because, nothing was non-iron or dry fit during that time. We wore the old school slacks. Yes. Wood bottom, Stacey Adams, feet hurting after the game. So, and there was blood all over my shirt. And I remember us just yelling in that locker room. And I don't know how it came out, but I said, I feel like Will Smith in Pursuit of Happiness when he got the job. Remember when he had the paint on himself?
Yes.
Got hit by the car before he got there.
But still got the job.
Still got the job. And at 15-14, we made states. And we played the number 1 seed out of Philadelphia, Martin Luther King, who was loaded at that point. Okay. Everybody, listen, it is done. Reading's done by 50. So we go down. We're winning. Okay. We get there, last 30 seconds, Jalen Branford steals the ball, and God bless him, man. He goes up, and he goes to lay it in and misses a wide open layup to seal the game. So we end up losing. But we were that close, how things can change. And, although that was a great moment, I struggled because year 3, we had another rough year, dealt with a lot of attitude, just like we were battling a lot of things. And during that time, and I love him with all my heart, still talk to him to this day. We had endured the murder of, Aunt Clay murdering the young man. So, that was tough on the program. You never want to take hits like that. Right. And then in my 4th year, Lonnie had been a freshman during that time. And there was just a battle. The guys on the team didn't want to let him be the best player. You're trying to help him rise, but you got these ego issues. And then, so we end up, we have a decent season, but we lose. No Berks County championships, year 3. So in year 4, I take before the season starts, I take a letter of resignation, to Mr. McLeod, slide it on his desk. He says, well, what's this? Anybody who knows Mr. McCall, he's just this big burly fella, don't say much, I said, here's my letter of resignation. If we don't win the Berks County championship, please accept it. And he just looks at me like I'm crazy. Okay. This is in November. And then, So we go fast forward to the Berks County Championship. 3 minutes left. We're losing by 9.
Oh.
Lonnie's sophomore year.
We're like, hold up. About that letter.
Get that letter back. Yo, and I had these, like, I used to take off clothing that I felt was bad luck. So now I'm down to the bare minimum. I can't take no more off. Right. So I remember Flowers grabbing me because I'm going crazy on the floor, and he grabs me. My belt pops. Boom. All of a sudden, we go on a run, come back, win the game, right? I said it was the belt. I never wore the belt ever again. And you know, after that year, things never looked the same. It was. I think Flowers and I needed that level. We needed that conditioning. We needed to be put in our place because the blessing was coming. You know, and I called prior to that season. I called Jay Wright from Villanova. I remember sitting at my dinner table. I'm by myself and I'm just crying. Like, what's going on here? Why can't I get this right? And if you look at Coach Wright's record, he had gotten smacked up a bit early in his career. He was at Binghamton, early in Villanova, getting beat up. And it was simple. He said, Rick, do you believe in your work? I said, damn right, I believe in my work. He said, then live and die on it. You know? And that's what I took. And I stood on that. You know, I stood on that. If I'm going to go down, I'm going down on my work, not anybody else's. You know, and here we stood.
I got to digest that. That was wow. Yeah. That was some great advice. Great advice. And that can apply to anything in life.
Yep. Man,
these young men needed you.
I needed them too.
Oh, true story. True story. And I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did and still do. I'm sure that it's a portion of your life that can't be replaced. I'm sure of that. So let me ask you this. How was it? And I don't want to get on a Lonnie tangent, but you coaching him is a testament to you because, as we all know, anybody who follows sports, coaching somebody great isn't the easiest thing either. One, because you got to figure out where you fit in that equation, but two, they have to have the trust in you to be coachable, to let them, because everybody, if somebody's great, they're not going to let just anybody coach them. Mm-hmm. So how did you and Lonnie develop that relationship? How did you say, you know what, I see where this man's going, but he still needs me here as some guidance?
You know, and oftentimes, you know, people will say that to me. I don't want to go on a Lonnie tangent, but why not? I mean, Lonnie means everything to the city, to this community. He means True everything story. To me, you know, and all these young men play a part in developing us, you know. So anytime you're coaching leader, you know, sometimes sometimes they do more for us than we do for them, you know. And Lonnie's just the most notable. You know, he has impacted my life in so many ways. You know, he really pushed me over the edge, you know, to be better. And Lonnie and I had a beautiful relationship, but it was very real. I mean, let me tell you something. Lonnie and I were in physical fights in the locker room, you know, man. And just he and I, not in front of anybody.
Yeah.
You know, just because he was sad or I was upset or you let me down or I let you down, you know, that's how our relationship clicked, you know. And I mean, we loved each other at a whole nother level. And he taught me to slow down and trust. You know, there's a lot of pictures that you can find of him and he's you know, handling the basketball. There's 5 seconds left. Shoot the ball, go to the basket. He's like, you know, I'm like, here, this guy. You know? Guess what? He got the buzzer beater. He controlled the whole pace. You know, he turned it up when he needed to. You know, everyone wanted him to be this dominant force, which he was in his presence, the way he uplifted others in so many ways. It wasn't until the semifinal that he said, I got to put the whole city of Reading on my back, score this 36 and take us to the finals, you know? Yeah. And he's just a different type of person. So he taught me to really just 2 Corinthians 5:7, you know, faith over sight. And that is, to me, when I think 2 Corinthians 5:7, I think Lonnie Walker, he's the one who showed me that. You know? Wow.
That's powerful too. That was nice. I'm sure he's glad to hear that. And hopefully he tunes in and hears us talking about him. That'd be a great thing. When you said about your relationship with Lonnie, one thing it made me think of is too, like, you have children of your own. Again, I coach your son. Our sons play together a lot. How does you being this coach, this great coach, translate into fatherhood, or does it, or are you? Some people try to keep that line so they don't have to, because they don't want it to filter over in the home. But then some people take the same principles into the home. Explain to me what your process is with that, with being this great coach, but also being this great dad.
Man, I have still never figured that out. I have tried. I can't say that there's a real process because, coaching really consumes you. And I think that I have been able to find the balance. First of all, I don't coach to anyone else's expectations except God's, and that was a big development in my growth, but it still consumes you, when I'm sitting at dinner and I'm staring blindly at my wife or my kids, and I'm staring at them, but I'm not looking at them because I got something playing in my head and something going on. It's hard when you walk in the gym and you get emotional because it's difficult at times. You walk into the gym at 3:00 and you got 25 young men who need your attention, but you got to get on the practice floor at 4:30. You're not meeting all their needs. You want to touch them. You want to love them. You want to make sure that they feel, your presence. Then you get done with all that. You're hoping that you met all their needs. And then you get home and your family, it's just like, what's left? And I know for myself that my heart has a lot of love in it, and I had to reset. I had to regenerate when I got to the driveway, and I had to. It's a blessing just to get home and pray with my kids at night, because I don't get that time. So being with them, is everything. So if I can cut practice so that I can go, and just touch Liana and pray with her, touch Jaden and pray with him, and touch Caleb and pray with him, and then just pass out in the bed with my wife, that's a win for me, come the season. So they have sacrificed so much during this journey. My family they sacrificed everything, and I've had to change things because I know that it's about their journey. You know what I'm saying? I have to make it about their journey. And little did I know that it was about mine, and I didn't even know that because I was so lost in it, and I didn't realize that till the last 2 years, where I had to fight my wife off of, no, you're not going to Reading High basketball games. You're going to Jaden's game. You're going to Flowers game. That's where the family's at. So coaching and looking over my right shoulder and seeing the section where everybody sat, what I call Mr. Flowers' corner. Yeah. And they're not there no more. Mm-hmm. It's difficult, to maintain. So I've never mastered that, but I'm just thankful for the sacrifice they have made for me, during this process, and they've done it, and they've been outstanding.
Wow. Agreed. Like you said, I like the part when you said it was their journey, but you didn't even know it was your journey, and that's because you were in it. But when I think about that, we all struggle. I got multiple kids. You got multiple kids. Again, they play together, so we're familiar. It is tough. I'm not a high school coach of anything. Full-time job, doing the Forge, trying to do things out in the community, coaching football, coaching basketball. It does take a lot out of you. I remember a time where, I had a job. I'm not going to lay it all out, but it was probably the most stressful job I've ever had. Not even probably, it definitely was. And I remember me and my wife even arguing, and she kept saying, you come home, you're miserable, the kids are on edge when you get in the door, etc. And I didn't realize it, but it was because I was putting out so much, trying to put out fires at work. And when I came home, like you said, you didn't have, you in your heart, you could do it, but physically, you realize, unfortunately, you can't all the time. You need that reset. So when you talk about the blessing of just being able to get home, say those last night prayers, and lay down and even just pass out with your wife, that's a blessing that a lot of men, unfortunately, don't realize how important that is. Because I'm the same way. When I love, don't get me wrong, like we have our Forge forums, they're over at 8. I know my kids start bedtime at 8:30, but usually in bed by 9. Very seldom do I not try to fly home to get there, give them all kisses, say goodnight. And the best feeling in the world is, say it's a later night and I pack up, it takes longer. When I get in that room and I come in the house, all the doors are closed. That means everybody said prayers and they went to bed. The best feeling is when I open the door and they're waiting in the dark. Dad, I was waiting. It's the best feeling in the world. So I know exactly how you feel when you say you get delayed. That means a lot to you, because I even explained to my wife, I know sometimes, like, my wife wasn't a big TV watcher before I came around. I think I ruined it. But like, I can't go to bed without putting the TV on. And some of the most important parts of our night, to me, one of my favorite things is just getting into bed with her, putting the TV on. Even if we don't talk, obviously talking is important, communication is important, but even if we don't talk, getting home and her being awake 10 minutes, because she always falls asleep before me. I know she's listening, but that 10 minutes laying there with her, knowing I've kissed my kids goodnight and came home and got in the bed with my wife, is still the most important part of my day. And I stand on that. So hearing you say that and get emotional about it, it meant something to me, because what you're doing is so great. And a lot of times you hear people talk about, oh, to be greatness, you got to sacrifice this. To reach greatness, you got to, unfortunately, they got to wait, or you got to be so focused. To hear that you could be focused and still realize what's important is huge. And I think a lot of men need to hear that, and realize they need to hear it from somebody who's achieving like you, because then they go, okay, me still wanting that isn't a bad thing. It's not me. I'm not slacking because I want that part of my life to be there. So thank you for sharing that with everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you said, we talk real here. So thank you for doing that.
And it's you have to also have a major, one thing that I think that we have been blessed with is we have a village. So knowing that my son is with you at football, or that Spanky's not in football season and now he's taking care of my kids, because that's a big thing for us. When the Flowers are in football season, I got to make sure I'm checking on it, because I know what it's like when he comes home. He knows I'm in basketball season. He's checking to make sure everybody's good. And we have so many other beautiful people in our family that are helping fill that void. So I'm thankful for all those people. So when you talk about, you didn't say mastering it, but doing it systematically, I think that's just what it is, being able to allow those people into those spaces, and help our kids continue to grow. Because if not, where would they be without them?
Yeah. And that seems like a consistent theme that we're talking about here today, is allowing people into the space that's needed. Because if you have an ego and think you can do it all, it's not going to work. Because like you said, like I asked you, how do you do it? I have people ask me all the time, well, how do you do this, and have the kids? And I'm like, I'm blessed because, one, both our moms are so involved, but two, that I can call somebody, how many times have I called you and Kristen, can you use grab jacks? I can't make it here. All right, got you. I can call Julian's friends, LJ's friends. Like, you got to let your ego go, or you will cause, your being focused will actually impact the ones you love in a negative way if you're not willing to let them fill that void with someone else. So thank you for sharing that. So we're going to dive into something you and I actually were just talking about when the cameras weren't rolling, the need to be real and and that's why you relate to these kids, because they see the real you and the type of coach you are and the real love you give them. So because these young men, especially the minorities in a city like ours, need that from you. So we're going to talk about that next. All right. So Rick, you and I were talking, we're off camera. You and I usually get in a good conversation, because that's, we both like to really talk and talk real conversations, and really, we don't talk about surface stuff. We dive in, and we could be spiritual, but we can also talk shit. We can do it all, but it always comes out to be very meaningful conversation. And one thing we talked about was your impact on these young men. And we've talked about that this whole time, but the type of coach you are and the type of relationship you built, especially with these young black and brown inner city men. You know, it's a stigma that comes with Reading High. People say Reading High, and everybody else in the county gets nervous. People say Reading High, and everybody else in the county thinks it's just a bad place. And you're taking these young men and making them champions. How do you think that happened, that you were the one able to do that? I know they've had other coaches before and things of that, and I'm not saying they didn't build that bond, but where Reading High basketball is right now is something special, and that's from you. So let's talk about what you and I said. How do you get these young men to listen, relate to you, and become a family?
Well, you know, authenticity is everything, you know, and I think that especially in this day and age right now, a lot of those are buzzwords: love, faith, you know, commitment, culture. Yeah. You know, a lot of people just use them as buzzwords, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it. You know, and we're very intentional with those things. I won't tell a player I love them till I truly love them, you know, till we've developed that relationship. And I think that they have felt that back. So when they feel that authentic relationship, so when I say that I love you, that means that you have all of me. You know, so you have my vulnerability. You're going to see all my different sides, you know, and I'm okay to opening up those ways for them. They're at my home constantly. So, you know, they see me interacting with my wife, with my kids. They see me interacting with family, friends. They come over. You know, there's no restrictions. When they're there, they're home, you know. So them seeing me at so many different levels really helps for them to relate, because they don't look at me as an authoritarian. You know, one time Jared Rockmingia said to me, he said, you know why you're a great coach? He said, because you don't argue with kids to wear white socks or black socks. And I had to think about that, you know what I mean? Because it's not about rule setting, you know what I mean? You get more through relationship building, you know, and not only do they see myself, you know, my authentic self, but I get to see their authentic self, you know, and their parents really trust me. So, you know, it's a lot of different things that, you know, if you out here getting jammed up, I'm the one that you call, because you know that I'm not going to scorn you. You know, I'm going to help you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to help you grow through it. You know, I've seen a lot of guys in some difficult situations, and as we build that love with each other, that commitment to each other, and go through these tough times, and they see I'm still there, you know, you get more out of us. You know, there've been guys get jammed up on a Friday night. I got to put them under the wing, bring them home, get it right. And the next day drop 26 on a Saturday, you know, and it's just because we know that we'll truly take it to whatever level we need to for each other. And they know that the COVID situation is a perfect situation. I put my career online, and I knew that I was, you know, when I spoke up on the school board and the administration. But what makes me different than many other people, it goes like this. When I make decisions, it's always about the kids, because I work in a school. Okay. So I work with kids all day. My home coaching. It's about the kids. It's about the people I'm around. It's about the system. And then it's about myself. Okay. So if I made a decision for the kids that don't benefit the system, then so be it. If I made a decision for the kids and it don't benefit the people that I'm working with, then so be it. But those are the people that I'm trying to accommodate ultimately. And they know that I'll put myself out there, because if you're a leader, you know, I'm not a CYA guy. I don't need to. You know, I'm always going to do things for the kids. And my decision you could debate right or wrong, but it was for them. It was never for me. You know, and when I start making decisions for me, that's when the kingdom crumbles. That's when them relationships, you know, when they're like, hey, coach, you threw me under the bus. Nah, you ain't never going to, I'll go under the bus first. You know? Wow.
That's leadership. That's, and realizing that that's what those kids need. Because everything doesn't translate to every place, but what you said really does. Like, when you figure out what is your decision make, like your why, when you make that decision, what's always going to be at the foundation of that, those kids know that. Anybody who's around you knows that. Anybody who talks to you knows that. And it's huge, because, you know what I mean, you're a confident man. You walk in the room, you command attention, etc. But when people talk to you, that ego's out the way. And that's always very impressive, because they know that when you're making a decision, a lot of people would think you're going to make the decision best for Rick. When they talk to you and hear this, they realize, no, Rick's making a decision best for our kids. Not even just your kids. You're making it for their kids, for somebody else's kids. And that's pure leadership. So they need that. And you're the type of coach that they need. And with that, like, have you ever, with coaching these gentlemen, have you ever felt, how can I put this, that the team you're coaching, I'm going to be honest with you, I've overheard, conversation. I'll be at other sports. Say I'm at a track meet and I'm hearing parents talk, and I've overheard parents going, yeah, oh, that Reading High School, man, I don't know how he's doing that. He's taking a bunch of kids from the city, a lot of Spanish kids, and they're not even usually playing basketball. How is he getting them to keep winning these championships? And that Reading High, all the good talent left. Have you ever had to deal with that? And how do you deal with that? Because I get mad just hearing it. You know what I mean? I was like, man, I can't start no fight here at this track meet, but I'm listening to it and I want to go to your defense. But I was like, you know what? I'm sure Rick's already been through that. So can you help us understand, how do you deal with that as a man? How do you deal with the stigma that comes with coaching at Reading High?
Well, people like to judge Reading High, from the outside. But everybody needs Reading High in one way or another. They need Reading High kids on their team. They need to come to the city, whether to make money, they need the resources or whatever it may be. So it's something that they want to talk about, but they need it.
Yep.
And they at the end of the day, they speak about it because they're so intrigued about it. I'm not spending my time talking about Wilson kids,
Facts.
What they do,
yep.
Or anybody else, so with that, we just package that. I think one thing that I have done well is eliminated the us versus them. Kind of break the barrier so that they can get to know us. Our kids are now getting more scholarships through the Berks County Refereeing Association. Refs kind of like us a little bit now, but it is, really exposing people to who these guys really are, because when you look at them, especially the way they play basketball, they looking gangster, they look rough, and, hey, look, do you know this? Talk to this kid. This is the most mild-mannered, well-rounded guy. And if he's not, then help show him.
Yeah.
Then help show him. And I think just exposing our guys to that and exposing other people to that, the winning, when you won the first state championship, all right, they gave you a microphone, megaphone. People are listening. You win the second one, now they leaning in a little bit. Now you win this third one, they're like, all right, we're all ears.
Yep.
And now that perception is gone because these young men, they've got good parents. I know sometimes we say, oh, they don't have no parents. We've got great parents.
Yeah, for sure. You got some great cases, parents for them kids. I know.
They've got decent situations. These kids, maybe they don't look the way that you want them to. They're the trendsetters at the end of the day. Yeah. They're the guys. So eventually, they've got to listen. Eventually, and we just want to continue to put our guys in situations where they are listening and they are seeing you. One thing Lonnie's dad said, which was magnificent, and he executed it too. I remember him saying, because he had Montverde coming in, Newman Goretti, people coming in trying to recruit him from all over the place. All right. And I was insecure for a little bit, like, is he going to come or go? But they never said they were going to go, and Big Lonnie's a man of few words,
Mm-hmm.
But if he don't tell you, they're not going. So I remember sitting with him and he said to me, I want my son to walk these streets. Okay. I want people to see him. I want them to touch him and know that it can be achieved from here. And that's exactly what he did. Not only did he do it in these streets, he had people coming from all over to feel the aura. They were like, I just need to be around him, so that I could be better, so there's nothing more powerful than Reading. And Lonnie said it a long time ago, you can't be the king if you don't go through the castle, so anybody else is just playing second fiddle. And that's the reality, because nobody else wins unless Reading High takes a step back.
Yep.
Okay. No one is forcing us to take a step back. We take that step back. They're the trendsetters. I mean, they're the ones, so although they may act fearful, they're still intrigued, and once we have their attention, we'll change those perceptions. They still all got to come to Blacktop because they all come to Blacktop.
Yep.
They still all got to come to the city.
It's true, because I remember I was getting like frustrated because I'm sitting there like you said, the first title, I remember everybody's, Reading High this, Reading High, it's great. And I'm sitting there going, if they weren't winning this title, y'all would have some bad shit to say. Yeah. And I'm sitting there like, this is crazy. And like you said, then the second championship happened. And you have more people doing that. And then you start, because I remember the first championship, all of us real Reading High people were like, oh my gosh, this is great. And you had some other people sprinkled in. Then the second one, the people who were fighting it, all of a sudden they start coming along. The third one, everybody's all in. And what you did was special because, like you said, you made something that had this negative stigma. You helped mold the men, the program, the image, everything into something that anybody in the area can appreciate. Can't say they identify with, they relate, but they appreciate what you've done, and it's become huge. There's people, I can work with somebody, literally, a lot of my job, a lot of people are in Lancaster, in that area, and they know Reading High won the state championship. So it means a lot. I'm like, yep, they did. And that's something you did. That's not easy to do, especially from a school like Reading High with the stigma that comes with that. And another thing you touched on that was really cool to hear is what Big Lonnie said. He wanted people to see his son, walk the streets, touch his son, and realize that it can happen from here. And us as men, we need to be very cognizant that that is a thing, that people are paying attention to what we're doing. People are watching. And it can be you, Rick. It can be me. It can be Hamilton. It can be Lonnie. Everybody doesn't want to be an NBA player, but maybe they do want to be a coach. They know the game. They maybe in their mind they're not physically able, but they know the game. So then they realize, okay, hold on. Maybe I stick with it and be just like Coach Rick Perez and coach to a state championship. Maybe they like people and they like numbers and they want to follow and say, you know what? Ebony's made a good life for himself doing banking thing or following his dream with the Forge. Then they see Hamilton. They say he is probably the best entertainer that's come out of the city, and I could do something like that. So it's really cool because I don't think us as men realize how impactful we are and how many people are paying attention, especially the youth. So thank you for sharing that.
Or maybe they want to be a councilman like Wesley Butler.
Yes, there's so many of us out there. Yeah, man.
Yeah. And it's not just Berks County who sometimes may fight the stigma, but Philadelphia, they don't respect what we do. They don't, I said, listen, Reading is on the monopoly board.
Yeah.
for a reason. Okay. Yeah. Let's get that, let's get that straight. This isn't something brand new, and I think we just play. We have a hashtag called Protect the City. Okay. And the Protect the City is because we know that we inspire through our play, and at the end of the day, that passion that we play with, that tenacity, that's our super skill, because we are not better than the teams that we are the higher level teams that we are beating. We just are willing to take it to a whole new level, and in every state championship we've been in, it was very simple. Oh, y'all let us in the party? Well, y'all gonna have to kill us to take it. Are you willing to take it to that? And we're playing at a level, they're coming to play basketball. We're coming at a whole nother level. And these guys, I mean, I can't even vibe with the other coaches because we here for some other business.
Yeah.
Like, we got this city, we have to deliver hope. We are not leaving on this bus without hope. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
this trophy represents hope, and we're going to take it back.
That's huge. Like you said, you guys are technically, you're taking a whole city on your back every time you go. All the negative stereotypes, all the negative press. Man, when it comes to you guys, you go in there, you win that championship. Like you said, you're bringing home more hope. You keep bringing home this positivity to push out this darkness. It's amazing. That was when you said that we're going to win some and bring home some hope. That's powerful. That's wow. That was I never thought of it that way. So thank you for sharing that with all of us. So let me ask you this: what would be you had said about that game, you would go back to that game in a minute. What is the most impactful thing to you about your life right now as a man? Is it your championships? Is it your family? Is it your faith? What is that for you?
They're all in the same. So I have come lately. I have been. I enjoy to have a drink when I'm with family. I enjoy even whenever I'm having a drink or not. Every day is a party. Every day is a party. And I remember going back and being in a high school. And one very important thing that Coach Golden taught me was, Rick, a lot of issues with the basketball coaches that come here is they sit on their throne and they expect everybody to glorify them, while they sit on the throne. You need to come off the throne, okay, and walk amongst your people. And, because he had said I was going to be coach. He had passed away prior to that, and that always stood in my head. But I had this vision, and if I'm being amongst my people, we're going to celebrate. So I walked into the Geiger one day and I said, yeah, we're going to turn this thing into a Sunday dinner. We're going to turn this into a party, and that's what we did. That included my family. My family was a major catalyst because when I didn't have fans, they were the only people celebrating with me, and that's what we did. We celebrated. We turned this into one big celebration, and that's what I will always enjoy. My players are not just they're not just guys who came through and played basketball. They come to my house, all the time. They pop up, now they're 25, 26, 27, 25. They come in and they taking my big plate of food because Mrs. P is cooking for them. So it is just that I was able to surround myself with a larger village than I already had. And my father said to me last week, I visited him in Tampa, and he said, Rick, I don't know what's wrong with you. He said, but you've always been about the crew. He said, your brother goes to California, goes here, goes there. He's okay being by himself. Your sister does the same. You've always wanted to be with the crew. And it's always been about us. It's never been about me. And the fact that we could turn up with everybody and enjoy and see so many people smile and spread this love and joy, that's what it's been about for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming. We're going to wrap this up. I'm going to ask you one simple sentence. Give me one sentence. If you want to summarize like your mantra, everybody has something, one thing you want to say to the viewers, to the listeners, what they should know about you before we go. Give me one, 2 sentences. Summarize that.
Myself. I'm going to give you my values.
Okay.
Faith, love, family, fitness, commitment, and loyalty. And I will live and die on those things forever.
All right. And with all of those, you ain't got nothing else to worry about. You covered all the bases. All right, Rick. Well, I appreciate you coming again, my man.
Thank you. It was
always. We're going to always keep talking because that's what we do. But thank you so much for giving us your time, coming, spreading this wisdom and talking to the people today. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. It was an honor.
It's an honor to have you. Thanks.
H, thank you.
Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this last episode. If you have, please check back and check our previous episodes. Also, make sure you watch it, make sure you like it, and most importantly, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Here at The Forge Focus, we just want to make sure that we're sending out positive vibes and great information from men in the community who can affect it and affect society as a whole. So again, please stay tuned. We got some more great things coming up for you. Prepare to be forged.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and, more importantly, learned something that can affect your perspective on yourself and manhood as a whole. If you have found the value that we expect that you did, we encourage you to hit the like and subscribe button and share this video. Spread the word and tell anyone in your life who can benefit. We'll see you on the next episode. Prepare to be forged.